Hey, beautiful friends, it's Erica. So I wanted to share some thoughts I was having about something that I know many of you can relate with, and it has to do with the younger generation, the kids, especially teenagers these days. And obviously, I have a teenage daughter, and I'm seeing this play out on a daily basis in my house, which is really what got me thinking about this. And as I was thinking about it this morning randomly, Spirit started downloading me all this information. And I was like, all right, I have to record a video about this because this is really interesting food for thought. And I know I'm still processing it. I don't have the answers, but I just wanted to share it with you guys because I thought it was so fascinating. So, one of the things that many people, when they look at the younger generations, the teenagers, is they are constantly on their devices, right? And of course, grown-ups are constantly on their devices now as well. But one of the criticisms of the younger generations is like, you guys don't even have conversations. Everything is over an app. Everything is over technology. Like, no teenager ever calls their friends, right? It's like, oh God, no, you don't know. The phone isn't for calling people, mom. The phone is for all these apps and all these ways to connect. And as adults, we're looking at this. I know I'll speak for myself, but I know many of you guys can relate, where it's like, you guys don't even know how to have face-to-face conversations, which, by the way, isn't true, right? Of course, we see our teenagers most of the time when they're separate from their friends and their friends, but even when they're, I know, even when they're in the same room with each other, I don't allow this at my house, but a lot of people, it's like the kids will be on their phones next to each other and even communicating with each other through their phones when they're sitting right next to each other. But anyway, so, I can go on and on and on about how this plays out, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And we, as adults, are looking at this, likely being very judgmental about it, and looking at it and being like, you guys are blah, 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 blah. You need to learn how to relate interpersonally with people. You need to be able to be in the same room and have a conversation with somebody. And of course, there's a fine line between all of this that I'm going to be talking about here. But we can easily look at that and say, oh, it's the devices, it's the programming, they're wired to be addicted to their devices, which is somewhat true anyway. That is true. And there's another angle to this that I'm going to talk about, which has to do with the spiritual angle. And I'm going to talk about consciousness right now. And I'm going to hopefully stir some thinking, because I know it certainly did for me. And again, there's a reason it's coming in so that I can share it with you guys. So if you think about it, we know that the kids and the generations being born now vibrationally and in their consciousness are already more connected to source than we are, our generations. Whether you consider yourself a baby boomer, a Gen Xer, a Gen Y, Gen Z, whatever you consider yourself, those of you on a spiritual path understand that the children are born closest to source, and they're already at a consciousness level that is beyond where we are at, even though we've been on Earth for a long time, right? Many years, many decades, but they're already coming in with the new level of consciousness. And so already there's a generation gap spiritually. And you guys know I'm passionate about conscious parenting. It's something I've worked on and worked in that realm of conscious parenting for a long time because I've understood this. And I'm passionate about helping to raise these beautiful souls. So whether you have kids of your own or your own teenagers or even grandkids, it's really important to understand this. So these children are coming in at a higher level of consciousness already from birth. And so they operate differently than we do. They're at a different frequency. They're at a different level of consciousness. They are so much more tapped into the fourth and fifth dimensions than most adults these days that are not on a spiritual path. So they're already connected to some of the more, they're more naturally inclined to the higher dimensions. So for example, in the fifth dimension is all the information, everything is connected. So if you look at, for example, the internet, or you look at all the apps layering on top of the internet and all the different ways to communicate. I know for me, I'm like, I miss the days of one phone and one email address. Nowadays, it's like someone says to you, like, oh, I sent you something. I'm like, well, where did you send it? Which of the 36 different places you could send it to me did you send it? Because I didn't see it. Like, it drives me nuts. But for the teenagers and the younger generations, it's so second nature and natural. And ask yourself why. If we're looking at this from a consciousness perspective, because they're already more advanced in their consciousness, more natural to them is to constantly be connected through the ethers, right? The fifth dimension, fourth, fifth dimension, the ethers. It's like, I'm connected to my friend who's over there. We're speaking live on FaceTime, or they don't even do FaceTime anymore. It's all like Discord and Snapchat and all these other apps that are secret, double probation, parents can't know about, right? I'm joking about that, but it's not funny, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And so they're more naturally inclined to connect to each other in that way. And it's not weird to them like it is to us. Now, there are some issues with this, of course. There are some challenges because we know that so much can get lost in translation over messaging. And I'm constantly having this conversation with my daughter where I'm like, you do know that you're having there's all these misunderstandings happening. It's because you're not actually talking to these people in person, right? It's all over text messaging, apps, whatever. And miscommunication happens in normal life, but it's even worse. I mean, we all have it as adults. You send an email, people misinterpret it. You send a text message quickly because you're in a hurry and someone thinks you're being rude or angry or whatever. It's like, nonverbal communication has its challenges, right? And we all have experienced this and we know this. And we, as the older generations, are more comfortable in the 3D. So while it is problematic that these younger generations have not yet developed the interpersonal communication, although I'm getting corrected right now as I'm saying this. My guys are like, no, that's not true. I am amazed at the conversations that my daughter and her friends have. I really am. I've heard them. They've had them with me. They've had them in front of me. So it's like, it's incredible the level of even interpersonal conversations they do have in person. So I'm getting corrected because I'm getting told like, oh, no. They know how to talk in person too. They're actually pretty, at least in my daughter's group of friends, pretty emotionally aware. Way better. Like, I would never have been able to have the conversations these kids have with my friends when I was younger. Like, we just didn't talk like that. We didn't actually speak about things in an emotionally intelligent way. But anyway, I digress. Took me way longer to learn that. But it was really interesting because their natural inclination is to communicate through the ethers, which is higher dimensional communication. It is more natural. It is a more natural state for them. So before you end up criticizing or judging kids that are in that energy, remember that they're wired differently. Their level of consciousness is different than ours. And for me, this was a really, really good lesson. Oh, my candle's burning out. I was like, what is that hissing sound? And it's my candle that's sizzling down at the end of its wick. But just look at it from that perspective, because I think you'll notice how true this really is. And you know how it is. These younger generations can access information and solutions like that. And you all can attest, you have an issue, you can't do something on your phone or your computer, you just ask a teenager or even a middle school or even an elementary school age kid at this point, and you're like, how do I, and they're like, boom, 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 done. And I'm like, how did you know to do that? And it's just, oh, it's just so natural, because remember, they are connecting to knowledge, to streams of information, because they are more connected. And anyway, so again, I'm still processing this. I know there's so many more layers to this, but of course I had to come on and do this video about it, because to me it's just a perfect illustration of this generation of kids are going to change the world. They're going, and I'm getting chills as I'm saying this, they are going to be the ones that change the world. And I know we say that about every generation, but this generation in particular, you ain't seen nothing yet from these kids. So my friends, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and let me know you like it. It helps other people find my channel. I would really appreciate it. And stay tuned to the channel for new announcements. I've got my, I'm going to be launching my cancer prevention course soon. I know I've been saying that here recently, but I'm getting closer and closer. I've had to navigate the technical side. I wish I had hired my daughter to help me with this, but I didn't. She's back in school now. So it's back on me to continue to trudge through the technology piece, but I'm getting there. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. And until next time, guys, I send you love. Bye.